Are you ready to know more about the law of karma, and how karmic justice is done? Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Tasneem H. Ibrahim, an international hypnotherapist with a doctorate in hypnosis therapy and healing science, specializing in past life regression. And you're watching my video on karma. Now, unfortunately, most of us have a very vague and incorrect understanding of karma. And because of this, we have misunderstandings and doubts about it. So, let us understand correctly what is the law of karma. And before we understand what is the law of karma, let us first understand what karma itself actually is. So, this word karma comes from the Sanskrit word kri, meaning to do or act, which means that all actions are karma. And this is the meaning of karma. Now, we may think that this word here, action, means good and bad actions, like feeding people, helping people, or even committing robberies or murder. These actions no doubt form karma, but they are only a part of karma. Karma applies not only to these outer actions, but it also applies to our inner actions, meaning those that we perform with our mind, as well as those actions that we perform with our five sensory organs, namely the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and hands. So, all actions performed by the body, mind, as well as the senses is called karma, which implies that our thoughts and feelings also form karma. So, when we have good thoughts and good feelings of love, kindness, and compassion, then we are accumulating positive karma. Whereas when we have negative thoughts and do negative activities like lying, cheating, have feelings of anger, jealousy, and hatred towards others, then we are accumulating negative karma. So all our mental activities also form karma and bring their respective consequences. Similarly, the activities which we perform with our senses also form a part of karma. Let us look at the sense of sight and hearing. We may use our sight and hearing positively to read a good book and get knowledge, or listen to good hymns, or we may use it negatively to watch violence or listen to gossip. So, activities done using the sense of sight and hearing also form karma. Let us now see the sense of speech. We may use our speech positively to praise someone or even guide someone, or use it negatively when we speak unkind words and do backbiting, or when we lie and gossip. So, speech also forms karma. Besides these, karma also includes those routine body activities where our conscious mind is not involved and aware, like sleeping, breathing, etc. Karma includes all actions. Each and every action that we do involving the body, mind, or senses, or the combination of all of these form karma. We are doing karma all the time. When we walk, when we talk, and even when we breathe, all actions are karma. So let us now understand what is the law of karma. We do actions continuously, day and night, but these actions do not disappear. Instead, they trigger reactions which come back to us. Now, depending upon the nature of our action, the reaction that can come back may come back immediately or with a delay. And the intensity with which it comes back depends upon the action and other factors like intention, feelings, etc. And also whether there is any repentance and self correction in us. Now, according to the karmic law, whatever energy is given out, that is the energy which will be returned, subject to the working of many earth forces like intentions, feelings, etc. Since our actions set into motion reactions, therefore the law of karma is also known as the law of action and reaction, or the law of cause and effect. Now, when these reactions are good, they are considered rewards, and when they are bad, they are considered punishments. So, both actions and reactions together form karma. Till now, we have understood that each and every action that we do with our body, mind, and senses forms karma. And these actions trigger reactions which come back to us. When these reactions are good, we call them rewards, and when these reactions are bad, we call them punishments. So this principle of action and reaction, or cause and effect, or what you sow, so shall you reap, is also known to us as the law of karma. Let us now understand how the law of karma, action and reaction works, and also understand that the law of karma is not the blind eye for an eye type of revengeful law, but is administered and guided by a divine intelligence which uses this law to help us attain a very high spiritual goal. So the question is, who or what is this mysterious divine intelligence, and what is this spiritual goal? The answers to this will give us the answers to two more important questions of who decides karmic justice and how is karmic justice administered. So let us start and understand how the law of karma, which is not a revengeful eye for an eye type of blind justice system, works. So what exactly is this blind law? Blind law means a purely automated system with no intelligence, which cannot analyze any situation and adjust its response accordingly, like the laws of science. However, the law of karma is not a blind law. It is not an unintelligent system which automatically gives rewards and punishments in an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I steal something, so an equivalent will be stolen from me. I killed, so I too shall get killed in the next life. I donate, so the universe will give me back the same either now or later on. The law of karma is not this sort of tit for tat debit credit account of deeds. The law of karma is very complex and different from the automated blind laws of science. So let us see the difference between the intelligent law of karma versus the blind law of science, like the action reaction law of physics, with the help of simple examples. Now, suppose I am walking and I accidentally hit my leg against a rock. According to the law of physics, the rock will react back on my leg with an equal and opposite force, and my leg will hurt. Here, the rock does not care whether I hit it intentionally or by accident, whether I am a first time offender or I am routinely careless, nor whether I am an adult or a child. The rock reacts back in all cases with the same equal amount of force. So, the laws of science and the action reaction law of physics is a blind one. It cannot judge motives and intentions behind my action or consider any other factors. It will give the same punishment. However, the law of karma is not like this. So let us take another example to understand how the law of karma works. How exactly is karmic justice done? Who gives out this karmic justice? And what is the spiritual goal? Now, suppose I am playing tennis, and just as I swing my racket, my friend suddenly comes out and the ball mistakenly hits him on the head. So, what kind of karmic action will my this action of carelessness invite? My action of carelessness will leave a subtle impression on my mind. Whatever life situations we find ourselves in, we subconsciously absorb conclusions and impressions from it, and these conclusions and impressions get stored in our mind. This process of collecting impressions and conclusions is a subconscious activity, and our conscious mind is not even aware of it. Impressions are continuously being deposited on our mind without us being aware of it because we are doing actions all the time. Now, once this impression of carelessness is deposited on my mind, it will now be presented before a divine intelligence for judgment. But what or who is this divine intelligence? Is it a supernatural power outside of me, somewhere in the sky, who watches all my deeds? No, it is not. This divine power is within each and every one of us as our soul that constantly witnesses all our deeds, good and bad, and which is aware of all our innermost, even buried and hidden thoughts, feelings, and intentions. So it is our own soul which judges our deeds and then decides the appropriate karmic reward or punishment in any given situation. Now, once the impression is presented before the soul assesses it and judges it using the inner subconscious mind. The human mind is divided into two broad categories: the outer conscious mind, which receives the sensory inputs from the outside world, which thinks, is logical, and makes day to day decisions, and the inner subconscious mind, where all the impressions of all our lifetimes are stored and which helps in giving out karmic justice. The soul uses the subconscious mind to assess whether the impression of carelessness that is deposited is a good one or a bad one. Good impressions are those which reduce our ego and increase our sense of oneness, whereas bad impressions are those that increase our ego and reduce the sense of oneness. But why is it so important to lower our ego? Let us understand this to understand the law of karma. Our soul has got trapped in the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth because it has forgotten its true nature, that it is an infinite ocean of divine consciousness, which has never been born and will never die, and is immortal. And instead, the soul falsely identifies with the mind and body because of the ego. So, the main goal of the soul is to clear this ego and realize its true nature. The soul uses the karmic justice system to achieve this. How does the soul clear its ego? Let us say that the mind is like a lake where the soul is trying to see its reflection. The ego is like a layer of dirt which covers the water of the lake, because of which the soul cannot see its reflection and falsely identifies with the mind and the body. Now, if more and more bad impressions are deposited in the mind, the layer of ego dirt will be thick and the soul will not be able to see itself. But if more and more good impressions are collected in the mind, the layer of ego dirt thins out and the soul is able to see its reflection more clearly. The soul uses the karmic justice system to clear the ego by rewarding the collections of good impressions which reduce the ego and punishing the collection of bad impressions which increase the ego, till the point where the ego is completely removed and the soul is able to see its full reflection and can see its true nature. When this happens, the soul attains ascension, moksha, free from reincarnation, free from the birth, death, and rebirth cycle. Seeing its true self is the spiritual goal that the soul is striving towards. So, now let us understand how the law of karma works. Our soul assesses and judges whether the impression of carelessness deposited is a good one or a bad one. In other words, did it reduce my ego or increase it? Now, in this case, the impression of carelessness deposited is a bad one. This is because the act of carelessness increased my ego. As in my hurry to play, I only cared about myself selfishly and I did not think about others' safety. My soul will now decide upon the amount of punishment I deserve to erase this deposited bad impression. Just as human judges do not pronounce the same punishment for all crimes and reserve the life sentence only for the very harsh crimes and let off small offenses with only a warning, in the same way, the soul does not deliver the same punishment in all situations. Instead, the soul weighs the harshness of the impression by considering the circumstances, feelings, and intentions of the actions, and only then decides how much and how long a punishment to give. Now, depending upon whether the deposited careless impression is a weak one or a strong one, my soul will decide the punishment plan. So, let us first start with the weak impression. Weak impressions are those which come from actions when our intentions are not bad. That is, these actions were done unintentionally, not intending to cause harm. For example, it could have been the first time that I was playing, so I did not realize that people might be in the way. I did not plan to intentionally hurt or harm my friend, and it was a genuine accident. So the impression of carelessness deposited on my mind will be a weak one. Now, because the impression of carelessness is weak, My soul will not deliver any immediate punishment, but it will instead wait and watch. Weak negative impressions are not erased immediately. The soul allows them to lie in the recesses of the subconscious mind because the karmic justice system allows time for self improvement so that we can correct our past mistakes. Without this, the system would be like a dictatorship and we would live in constant fear and human development would stop because no one would do anything for fear of making a mistake and inviting karmic punishment. And this is why, when the deposited impression is weak, the soul does not give immediate karmic punishment but gives the person time for self improvement and to correct their past mistakes. Now, if this self improvement or self correction by the person is genuine, then he or she can actually completely erase this negative impression. So, in this case, if after hurting my friend, I feel genuinely sorry and promise to be more careful the next time and keep my promise of being careful, then over time I can succeed in erasing the weak impression of carelessness and no karmic punishment would be necessary. So, in the case of weak negative impressions, the soul waits and watches, and no immediate karmic punishment is given. Now let us see what happens if the impression of carelessness deposited is a strong one. Strong impressions come from intentional, deliberate, and repeated actions where our intentions are bad. So, in this example, suppose it was not the first time I was playing and purposely chose to play at a time when I know people come out and knowingly and purposely hurt and harm people and wanted to cause them pain. So, with each and every act of carelessness, the impression of carelessness gets repeatedly reinforced in my mind. And because I never correct myself or my actions, this impression becomes stronger and stronger till it eventually becomes a habit. Now, carelessness becomes a part of my life. I lose things all the time. I am always late, and others get troubled by my habit. Now, this impression of carelessness will keep becoming stronger and stronger in my mind till the point where my soul decides that this impression is now too strong and there is absolutely no hope for self improvement. The moment my soul decides this and takes this decision, it will now start a process to counter and erase this negative impression. However, I will not be punished immediately. My soul will wait patiently for the right situation to come. The law of karma does not work on linear time, which involves only the present life. Karmic justice can and often takes many lifetimes to resolve. So, either in this lifetime or some other lifetime, when the time and situation is right, my soul will put me into situations where I will be forced to experience personal suffering like illness, disability, accident, grief, trauma, loss, etc. So that through these experiences, my mind will now develop the opposite qualities of carelessness like carefulness, responsibility, sympathy, and empathy and in this way erase the deposited strong impression of carelessness and selfishness. So, in the case of strong negative impressions, the soul looks for punishment situations to counter and erase the deposited bad impression. However, karmic punishment is not necessarily given in the current lifetime itself. The right time and situation may even come in another lifetime. Let us now summarize everything. The law of karma is complex, and karmic justice takes place subconsciously, and our conscious mind is not aware of it. The law of karma is not like the blind, unthinking eye for an eye law of science. Instead, it is administered and guided by a divine intelligence which analyzes the circumstances, feelings, and intentions of the person's actions and only then delivers the appropriate karmic justice. The divine intelligence which administers the law of karma is our own soul. Our soul that is constantly watching all our actions and deeds, good and bad. It is our own soul which analyzes and judges our deeds and then decides the appropriate karmic reward or punishment to give us. In order to analyze and judge our deeds, The soul uses the inner subconscious mind. The spiritual goal of the soul is to find its true inner self and attain ascension, moksha. To attain this goal, the soul uses the law of karma to reduce bad impressions which increase the ego and increase good impressions which reduce the ego. Just like a boatman uses two oars to move his boat forward, the soul uses the oars of karmic rewards and punishments to guide our boat across the ocean of life to arrive at ascension or moksha. Since the divine soul guides the law of karma, therefore karmic justice is never the revengeful eye for an eye type of justice like the blind law of science. In fact, in many situations, especially in the cases of actions which deposit weak negative impressions, the soul actually chooses to deliver no karmic punishment and give the person time for self correction, self improvement, and correct their mistakes. Only when our actions deposit strong negative impressions does the soul initiate karmic punishment. But this is also not the eye for an eye type of punishment. For example, suppose I kill someone out of intense hatred, then it does not mean that I too will be killed in my next life and be taught a karmic lesson. The divine soul does not do karmic justice in this blind way, because if I also get killed, then the impression of hate that I am carrying in my mind from my past will only become stronger, because I will be filled with anger for my murderer, and that is not the aim of the law of karma. Instead, its goal is to extinguish that burning impression of hate by developing within me higher divine qualities of tolerance, empathy, love, and forgiveness. To achieve this purpose, my soul will put me into situations where I will be forced to develop these qualities through times of strong personal suffering, where I will face life threatening illness, disabilities, grief, trauma, loss, etc., and where there is no choice but to tolerate, grow, and evolve. Before we finish, it is important to understand that in the law of karma, there actually is no such thing as karmic rewards or punishments, because the aim of the soul is not to force us to behave properly by giving us rewards for good behavior and punishment for bad behavior. It does not want to subdue us or make us fearful of punishments and greedy for rewards. The goal of the soul is very different and higher, which is to help us find our true inner self and attain ascension or moksha. And to achieve this goal, the soul uses both positive life experiences and negative life experiences to clear away the deposited dirt of ego and unveil the infinite consciousness that lies hidden within each one of us. The soul uses the law of karma to lift us from the ordinary state of limited human consciousness to ascension or moksha, where we can experience for ourselves the absolute truth that we are not the body or the mind, but we are the soul, pure, infinite, and immortal. We are not human beings having souls, but we are actually souls having human experience, eternally merged with God and identical to God. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it interesting and useful. If you did, please do like and subscribe to my channel in order to see more videos like this. And also do not forget to hit the bell icon so that you can get notification each time I upload a new video. Thank you once again for watching.